Where do we live in Italy? We lived in a town called Durazzano, province of Benevento, which is about 25 kilometers southeast of Naples.
Durazzano, provincia di Benevento.
Vabbè,
Non lo vedete.
the primary livelihood was farming. The home was like 4 rooms. I remember there was one room where the cows were kept and a donkey, and there was an outside bathroom. The kitchen had a fireplace, you know, with wood. You had to use the wood to cook on it.
2 bedrooms.
And there was one stove. There was a propane stove. Then there was another room where we kept the supplies like sausage, prosciutto, grain,
All the grains.
all the stuff that you would use during winter. That we had 2 bedrooms and one area with a balcony. It was a pretty nice house. It was new. My father had it built like I don't know. I would say 10 years before we came to. We had to get the water out of the well with a rope and a bucket. No heat. Had furniture. The kitchen, I think the kitchen had dirt floor. All the other rooms had regular floors.
Well, it did have the floor. Had
No?
not ceramic, but it was like a
Like a
clay
Oh,
floor.
okay. All right. So
Tile.
they did have floors. Okay. And no running water.
And not dust.
My father was in the Italian army and he fought against
Under
the
Mussolini.
Germans under Mussolini. And he used to tell us stories where he fought in Albania
Libya,
and
Greece.
he used to tell a story where he was taken prisoner by the Germans and how they were marching him through the streets. And he said one time he was walking through the streets, he was starving to death, they weren't giving him enough food. He bent down to pick up potato peels on the street and they were showering him, they would bathe him in the cold weather, in the snow. They were just treated like animals. And then he escaped. Somehow he escaped and he came back home and I forget how many years was he in the service, you know?
It's solid
It's
more.
not clear.
5, 6 years. I don't know.
Yeah, it was quite a long time.
It was one down stuff.
But he was prisoner for a period of time of that too. So yeah, it was rough. You know, war is rough. War is it's no fun. There's no picnic. No fun. There's no picnic. Just like I saw action in Vietnam. There's no picnic. They lost one brother. My father lost one brother in Italy. His name was Carmine. What happened? He was a shepherd. He was with the sheep on the side of a mountain with another guy. They were guarding the sheep. Carmine, my father's brother, fell asleep. The other guy, what was it? What was the other guy, I don't remember his name. He found a mortar, an unexploded mortar from the American Army. He found it. He picked it up. He went and sat down next to Carmine when he was sleeping. He took a rock and he was going to take it apart. Yeah. But needless to say, the mortar exploded and they both got killed. My aunt who lives here, and Mary Grace, also got wounded. She was in Italy on an olive tree picking olives, and she had a goat. She tied the goat at the bottom of the tree. She climbed the tree. She was picking olives. All of a sudden, these 2 planes came by. They were American planes. They went by. One of them turned around, came back, and dropped a bomb right where she was. She lost her leg. It took her leg off. She fell off the tree. You know, they ran, and people ran there. They put a tourniquet around her leg, and they had to take her to the hospital, which was like 30 miles away, on a donkey. And she's bleeding all this time. When she got to the hospital, they put her there in the hallway, waited. She had to wait. There was other wounded people. There was other wounded people there that laying in the hallway. She had to wait her turn until they finally got them. Anyway, today she lives in America. She's got one leg, And the other foot, she also got shrapnel on it. The ankle is still damaged today.
So,
But she's still alive. She lives in America. She lives a block away from me.
a lot of dust.
Okay, when I left Italy, I was
Cavados.
14 years old. They left it at a different time because me and my father left a year and a half before that.
No, 6 months.
Okay.
It gave me 63 in March, I think.
Okay, 6 months before that. Why I came over me and my father came over 6 months before them. It's because my father got the visa. He was able to come to America. However, my father was illiterate. He couldn't read and write. He couldn't write his name. So I had to come along. I had to bring him here. As a minor, I had to sign his name and everything else for him and explain things to him when it was sent to me. And we came by boat. We left from the port of Naples on a large boat called a large ship called Vesuvio. We sailed for 13 days before we reached New York. And I was sick for 14 days. I was seasick for 14 days. I was sick every day. I wasn't able to eat. Seasick every day anyway. To me, the size of the waves was like mountains. I never seen anything like it. And I remember seeing one black guy in the ship that I was so amused by that I never seen a black guy in my life. I used to sneak around and stare at this guy. You know, I was amazed by it. I'd never seen a black guy before. Anyway, when we reached America, Uncle Nick and then Josephine and Uncle Joe, they came to get us at the port. And I remember my father was bringing sausages and prosciutto with him, which wasn't allowed. And they took it away from us. So my uncle just said, "Give it to me, I'll eat it here." And that's what he did. He took a bunch of it and he started eating the sausage and the prosciutto. He ate some of it, he couldn't eat it all. Then it drove us to Westbury and we stayed with Uncle Nick and then Josephine. We lived with them upstairs and we worked with Uncle Dominic, who was the husband of Mary Cerdullo. My father worked with Uncle Dominic and I went to school. They signed me up for school. I believe I started in 6th grade. I remember going to school, I couldn't understand what they were saying. I didn't know one word of English, nothing. And then eventually, a little bit of time, I used to write things on a piece of paper that the teacher would put on a blackboard. There was no special classes to teach English. Whatever you learned on your own. If you did, you did. If you didn't, you didn't. They didn't care. Not like today. So anyway, I learned mostly on my own. My father used to work with Uncle Dominic, like I said before. He used to cut grass. They used to cut lawn. And we lived upstairs in the summertime. We came here in March. But during the summer, it was so hot upstairs. There was no air conditioning, no fan, no nothing. We used to open a window. And I would go to school in the morning, he would go to work. And 6 months down the road, my mother, my brother, and my sister came to America. I believe my brother's going to take over now and explain his trip.
My saga?
Your saga.
Yeah, we came in October. Actually, we reached the port of New York on October 1st, 1963. My impression of, first of all, not knowing where I was going, knowing it was America, but I had no idea where we were going to land or what it was like over here. Coming into New York, the harbor, you see all the filth they pretty much in the water. We're saying to ourselves, is this better or worse? At being the age of 12 that I was when I came here, didn't know much anyway from, I guess, being in other areas or to compare to. I pretty much, this was my first, I guess, city that I had traveled to. And once we got here, the same thing, we were staying with our relatives, specifically myself and my brother. We were staying at Aunt Mary. and my mother and father and my sister was staying at Aunt Josephine and Uncle Nick. So from that point on, I was registered to go to school. I was registered at Drexel Avenue School in Westbury, 6th grade. And like my brother didn't understand or know anything as far as English to communicate. Did have some friends that I associated with as far as speaking to somebody. And also I had my 6th grade teacher, Mr. Cristiano. He spoke some Italian, and that was also helpful. But during the transition, trying to learn and trying to cope with the changes, it wasn't too tough to get over it, quite frankly. Things were much better. I was going to school. I was working in the summertime and after school at times for my uncle, and at some point later on for John Ambrosio, which he had the landscape business, and he also had some, I guess I call it, what's the word I'm looking for, benefits to the fact that he gave you breaks, he bought you ice cream, and those kind of things. So that kind of lured you towards going with him than going
give
with
us
a relative.
sodas, right?
Soda water, used to call it.
Wow.
Mix it with water, 12-ounce can with a
And
half a
swimming
gallon
pool
of
was
water.
nice.
Pretty much in a nutshell, I came here. I'm glad that I'm here. No regrets, and that's when we got here. Obviously, being the young age that we were, myself being 12, my sister was Francesco quando lei? 6 years old, Francis. And lui, and my mother was what, 30? About 39 years old she was when
How
she
old
came
was
over.
Dad when he came?
So Dad had to be, he's 2 years older than mine, so he would have been about 41.
41.
Yeah. He was born in 1923 and she is born in 1925.
It was harder for them to adjust because they were older than us. We were younger. Literally the time we started having friends and hanging out, and you learn a word here, before you put a sentence together, you're able to communicate. It took a couple of years, but that's how really we learned. However, I just want to mention the fact that we left behind Grandma and Grandpa. Grandma's name was Francesca Buffolino. Grandpa's name was Francesco Buffolino. Father's side. On my mother's side, there was Nicola Biscidelli and
She had already passed away.
Angela Biscidelli, maiden name Iuliucci.
But she was already passed away.
My grandma. So we left them behind. It was sad to leave them behind.
Cousins and
cousins, aunts, uncles, bunch of relatives.
It was mostly on the Buffalino side. That was mostly. There were Uncle Joe and then Mary and Mary Grace and Uncle Vincent Vincenzo.
Uncle Nick and Josephine.
Those were the from a blood relative. Those were our relatives.
Yeah, I work on a farm,
Fields.
I take care of the kids, everything. We live with grandma, grandpa, just we have a bedroom up the other side. After we make the new house, Sandrock, it's the place, it's the name of Sandrock. And we move over there. After we move over here, forget the first time I go crazy. I want to go back in Italy because I don't want to stay on. I go work in a sweater factory for a couple of months. After that, go collect, the employment. After that, work in a dry cleaner, 26 years. I work in a fireplace. Very hot over there.
Like a fireplace.
I can't believe it. I can't wait till I leave. When I leave, I say, I don't want to say bye to nobody.
It took 26 years to leave.
26 years.
She just couldn't find the door. Took her 26 years.
That's it. So tough life. I go shop, listen to no dry. Sometimes nobody home and go shop, rain, snow, forget it. Like
Not the same, I guess,
in Italy,
way of living as she had over there. Obviously,
we
one
got
thing-
everything in the house in Italy. We don't buy nothing. We got everything. We work in a farm and we have everything.
make the bread, make
Yeah.
basically I decided to join the priesthood or the monkhood or whatever you want to label. I was away probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 months in Sorrento by Naples. Nice place, I gotta say. You had a nice view of Mount Vesuvius, the whole Bay of Naples, and was there a lot of studying and with other kids my age, I guess. I was probably around 11, 10 years old, and I was away from home. But once I learned that my father and my brother coming over here to the United States,
It was the end of the
I
process.
say I'm not staying behind over here for myself, so decided to
So it wasn't a legitimate.
leave, decided to leave. Keep in touch basically by mail, and my superior monk, he would read a letter. Sometimes he would not send them, thinking that I would change my mind, and then eventually saw that I wasn't changing my mind, and I contacted them, and they arranged to come and get me. And I was back in Durazzo for, I guess, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, working a farm with the donkey and plowing the fields and
Picking up rocks,
and doing everything
cleaning the
that
field.
you do on a farm.
Yeah,
So
that's what we
it
did.
was no fun,
We
but
got a farm.
it was.
Over here, the people are working on a farm too.
That's what we did. We brought everything that we ate.
You buy stuff in the store.
You work from the time you start walking.
What
You know,
place
they
they
bring-
come?
They bring you to the farm, you go there, you think you're playing, but you're actually working. But it was fun. Childhood in Durazzo, in Italy, for me it was great. I mean, it was basic. It was great.
We got a car, we
regrets. I
got
loved it.
milk in the
I wish other
house.
people could experience that. American kids
We
could
got
experience
everything in the house.
You didn't have to worry about what the pair
There's
of
nothing to
pants
worry about.
you would wear the
Nothing.
next day because you only had one pair,
that.
one
Yeah,
pair of
there's nothing
shoes.
to worry
So
about.
you would
Not the
only
kids worry, but still, you know what I mean? There was no pressure.
it was fine.
You worked, but
It
you
is.
didn't care. That's what it was. That's the way it was.
You didn't starve. That's what-
The process of coming to America, you gotta apply for a visa, which my father did first. We waited for like, I say, he waited for like over 2 years before he got issued a visa. And like I explained before, the reason why I came with him because he was illiterate. He could speak, he couldn't read and write. But the process was a long waiting process. Once he got the visa, and me and him came to America first, then they were able to come on the same visa. We were able to call them and we were able to travel to the United States.
Yeah, he had, Grandpa had brothers and sisters that were born in the United States, and then they went back to Italy, all of them. But they came back here, and that's how the process started. Because my grandparents, they were already here before, obviously, we came here, but they decided to go back to Italy, and then Uncle Joe and Josephine, and then Mary and Uncle Jimmy, they were already here. And they called they applied for the visa. You gotta have somebody a sponsorship to get
Yeah. And they have to guarantee you a job and everything. You don't just come here and hang out. You have to be guaranteed a job. So that's what they did. The ones that were already in the United States sponsored my father to come in. That's why he went to work with Uncle Dominic Cerdullo and Mary's husband. And that's how the process works. You have to be guaranteed a job, a place to stay. There's a number of things, qualifications you have to meet before you can.
Well, there were a couple of attempts when I don't know the exact year when the first it was supposed they were going to come, and then they closed the acceptance to allow any more immigrants in the States from Italy, I think. I don't know if it was worldwide or not, but then you had to wait a number of years to try to come back, and eventually came in the 63 we came. No, there was,
No, Elsa was already
it
closed.
was before.
It was already closed.
We came into New York.
What port was that? I don't remember. Was it New York port? New
It
York
was in
Port,
New
or
York,
Brooklyn,
yeah,
where the hell was
it
that?
was in New York. I think it was
Adesso ne sto
on the same over there now.
Posto in New York, questa è la Statua della Libertà.
Yeah, you can see the Statue of Liberty from the ship when we came.
Spanish name.
But not outside, outside was already closed. It was. You know, somebody pointed out, I'm like, the Statue, what's the Statue of Liberty? I don't know what it is. You
Never
know,
seen
nobody
it
ever told me
before.
anything about it.
Spanish name,
You know what I mean?
boat,
So, that was it.
You didn't have exposure, television, radio, none of that.
We
That
didn't
you
know
would
anything about the Statue of Liberty.
know what there was over here. There wasn't. You were really going to exploring new country, but not knowing what it was all about.
When my father got off the ship, he got down on his hands and knees and kissed the ground. Because he was so glad to be here, you know.
Eventually made it.
And he was able to, you know, not secure, but he was able to give us an opportunity for a better life. That's one of the major reasons why we came here. Really, there was no other reason. That was the number one reason. He wanted to give his children, you know, being a family man that he was, including my mother, both of them, you know, very close family. They wanted to give the children a better life, just as I want to do, and my brother wants to do. You know, and we did. And that's how we are, a close-knitted family. We stick together. We help our kids.
They checked before. I remember before we came, and we had to go to Naples for several times for different things. They checked to make sure you were vaccinated. I mean, the vaccine, the regular, you know, vaccine. Other than that, you know, they didn't really check for any other type of, I guess, diseases, or they didn't give any immunizations that I remember. So, and then when he got here, there was nothing. We just got off and basically moved on.
I gotta say something about the last name. The last name originated as Buffolino, Bufffolino. We later changed it. We shouldn't have, but we did. The reason why I changed it was because the Americans couldn't pronounce it. They were having difficulty pronouncing, so I changed the O, B-U-F-F-O, to B-U-F-F-A. That's not the correct spelling. That's not the birth spelling.
Or through naturalization.
Yours was changed through, no.
Citizenship. When they went, that's when it changed.
So it was changed. So the correct spelling is B-U-F-F-O-L-I-N-O.
But otherwise, yeah, there is no significant basic.
First memories of coming to America, I guess we were applying for either our passports, and I remember going to Naples. My grandfather, which is my mother's father, Nonno Nicola, came with us, and we must have gone out to eat after doing the paperwork. I remember having roast chicken, and I enjoyed it so much because it must have been made restaurant food, which we were not used to having. That's one of my earliest memories. I remember preparing and saying goodbye to some of my little friends, and one of them was a little boy who was the same age as me, and we must have had some kind of argument, and I told him, when I go to America, I'm not going to write to you, even though I didn't know how to write. That little boy was Cheech Pasilko, who I met again 10 years later when we went back in 1973, and we became engaged, promised to marry, and then we got married 3 years later at 19. So that was my first memory of my then became husband. I remember being on the boat, on the ship to come to the United States, and all the people on the dock waving their handkerchiefs and crying, saying goodbye. I said goodbye to my grandparents that we lived with, and that was the last time I saw them alive. When we went back in 1973, they had both passed away.
Yeah, we traveled first class for peasants, if you want to call it that. We came on the Discoverer Colombo was the boat that we came on, and I guess that'd be third class, or maybe lower. We were all the way in the bottom.
By the engines.
Yeah, but no porthole, nothing. Just a small like bunk beds hanging from the wall, and all three of us were in there. I remember us sinking. I don't remember if it was a bathroom. I don't remember. But
How many days did it take to travel?
it took us 7 days.
It took us
But-
13 days.
One a day we eat, just one a day. After the we
Once we crossed the port of Gibraltar in Spain, and that was
Straight
the,
at Gibraltar.
that was the end of it.
Yeah, the water got rough.
Very, very rough.
I remember being on the ship. I guess the first couple of days I wasn't seasick yet, and I made a little friend, a little girl, and we were playing with dolls and running around and playing. Once the seasickness kicked in, because we were about 8 days at sea, then it was it was very rough. Not wanting to eat, not getting up out of the bed. And I remember there was a couple from Durazzo who had gotten married and was coming to the United States, and they felt so bad for us that we were all so seasick. They were bringing us food to the cabin to get us to eat. Then I remember pulling into the harbor, seeing the Statue of Liberty for the first time, and my mother crying that we had arrived. I have some very vague memories of my father meeting us there and bringing us to Westbury. I really don't remember which of my uncles probably came with the car to pick us up. We came to Westbury, and our first stop was at my Aunt Josephine's house. And I'm meeting my cousin Maria for the first time. She's 2 years younger than me, and I was so excited that I was going to have a little girl cousin to play with. So that was those are my earliest memories of that whole trip and the time coming to the United States.
When we got here, basically initially we were living with our relatives, split. My parents were living in one house, and myself and my brother were living with my aunt. And then we rented a place on Medicine Avenue. We were living over there for about
Westbury,
Westbury.
4 blocks from here.
about 3 years, probably. We were living over there, and then bought a house over here in Fifth Avenue. Same thing, still in Westbury. And
Yeah, why don't you tell them how we bought the house? We worked, Nick worked, my mother worked, my father
everybody
worked.
pitched in.
We put all the money together, my father was able to buy his first house. I think he paid $27,000, 2-family house.
in
In 66.
Bought the house. Well, that's how we did it. We coupled all our money together, whatever we earned, we all worked. I worked in a pizza place washing dishes. My brother, where did you work, Nick?
Same, pizza place, landscape.
Pizza place, landscape, whatever you could get, whatever you could make money. We gave it to my mother and father.
Jobs.
They would give us a few cents, a few dollars on Sunday, but basically they kept all the money to buy the house. And it worked out to our benefit, of course. Grandpa worked, like I said, with Uncle Dominic cutting lawns, and then later on he got a job at St. Charles Cemetery in Farmingdale as a grave digger. And the ladder slipped, the ladder fell, and he fell on top of the ladder and he broke his back in 2 places. So he was unable to work anymore after that. He was on social disability.
Yeah. And quando mi faticavo prima.
E te questo qui.
Oh, sure.
Well, the life here was difficult in the beginning. Then we started making friends, and before you know, we hung out, started learning a little English here, little English there, learning school, little outside school. We began making a life in America. It was
Easy to adjust.
easy to adjust. It wasn't difficult to adjust. It was a lot easier than the life we had in Durazzo. Over there it was simple. There was nothing to worry about. Over here was things to do. You could accomplish things. You could buy a car. You could learn something in school. There too, but I thought there was a lot more opportunities here than there were in Italy. That's for sure. So anyway, I finished high school. As soon as after I finished high school, I got a job in a body shop. I went to school for auto body repair. Trade school here at Westbury. Then I got a job at an auto body shop called Scapi and Pack in Westbury. I worked there for almost a year. Then I got drafted. Those days they drafted you in the service. I got drafted to go in the service. So in 1969, I went into the service from Fort Hamilton, Brooklyn. They took me to Fort Gordon, Georgia. From Fort Gordon, Georgia, they took me to Fort Knox, Kentucky. From Fort Knox, Kentucky, they took me to Vietnam. I spent almost a year in Vietnam. I was wounded. I got a Purple Heart. I got a Bronze Star for bravery. I got an Army Commendation Medal. I got a bunch of medals. Then I came home, and I had a girlfriend for 9 years, I remember, but we broke up. We ended up breaking up. She waited for me. We ended up breaking up anyway. Yeah, like I mentioned before, I got a Purple Heart because I was wounded in action. I got a Bronze Star because we did something crazy and I was part of it. We had to sweep a road loaded with mines. I was with the Army Corps engineer, me and 6 other guys. I took the guys out with me. We set the road, we cleared all the mines. We found 19 mines. We blew them up in place because a convoy had to go through. It was a suicide mission, what it was. You know, we could have easily got killed. We could have easily stepped on a mine and been blown up. But anyway, we found all the mines, we blew them up in place, and the convoy was able to pass safely. Well, when I got the Purple Heart, that was a different story. We swept this road, there was dirt road. We went down the road with 3 tanks. We went all the way down the road about 3 miles. No mines. We turned around, came back, I was in the middle tank. The tank in front of me hit a mine. A big mine, a 150-pound bomb. It exploded, took the whole side of the tank, an M50 tank, which is a M48 tank, I'm sorry, which is a pretty big tank, 48 tons. It took the whole side of the tank off, and I was in the middle tank, and then we got ambushed. They started shooting at us with small arms, and we returned the fire. I got thrown off the tank. I was laying underneath the tank, and a cannon fired. They fired with the cannon on the tank, and I was right there. Blew my eardrums out. I was bleeding out of my mouth, my ears. I got up to go and run under the other tank, and by that time we had called in the Cobra gunships for help because we were pinned. We'd been fired upon. The Cobra gunships came from about 300 yards. They started firing their rockets, and they don't know what they're shooting at. They just start firing. It was hell. So I got up to run under the tank, and I got hit in the leg with shrapnel and in the back with shrapnel. I got under the tank, and I stayed there till the firefight ended. And then they medevac us with the helicopter. Me and 3 other guys were wounded. They took us to the hospital. 3 guys got killed. 1 guy lost a leg. You know, but we don't know how many of them we killed. We couldn't find any because they used to hide. They used to hide in tunnels. When I was in Vietnam, I was drafted. I was another citizen. And one day I told the captain, I said to him, actually it was a lieutenant, I said to him, Lieutenant Surman, the least you could, his name was Surman, that was his last name. I said, Lieutenant Surman, the least you can do is make me a U.S. citizen. He says, what do you mean? You're not a U.S. citizen? I said, no. He goes, well, you're not supposed to be here. I said, well, I didn't come here on my own, you guys brought me here. You know, I didn't come here on my own. He said, make it sound like I came here on my own. So he says, okay, well, I'll talk to the captain. Anyway, they got together, they gave me a 7-day trip to Hawaii, because you got to be on U.S. soil to become a U.S. citizen. They sent me there for 7 days. I became a U.S. citizen. I remember getting a sponsor, a guy off the street to sponsor me. He was glad to do it. And I became a U.S. citizen, and then I went back to finish the tour. Then I came back home in 1971, and I went back to the same job that I had in the body shop, and my foreman says to me, Frankie, why do you want to stay here? This is crazy. You're breathing pain all day long. You see Ernie, a guy who just died of lung cancer. You see Ernie just died? He used to spray cars. He says, you should think of getting a different job where it's fresh air. So, I quit. And I went to work construction. And then went back to that field again. So then later on I got married, 3 sons, Rocco, Michael, and Thomas. And we lived in Westbury for a while, then we moved to Jericho to give them a better school district, a better future. And that's where we are today. Basically, I remember I had my first car, but let me mention this. I had my first car, a Corvair. Not a Corvette, Corvair. It was an air-cooled Chevy car. And, my first car was white, red interior, with a shift on the floor. It was fine in the beginning, but then it started, I don't know what happened. The cabin used to fill with smoke. I used to have to drive around with the windows down. But it was exciting getting a first car. My advice to the people that are going to be watching this video, especially the young kids, my advice is learn all you can, be all you can. Don't be afraid of anybody. Be yourself. Take chances. Don't be afraid. Just
Then
do
I
it.
say get a job.
No, that
Not to-
goes without saying. Not a job. Start your own business.
Once I started school over here, obviously went through all the grammar, 6th grade, 7th, and the junior high school. And at one point, I was also going to technical school for automotive. I went for, I think, 1 year, learn how to fix cars. But after going on to high school, my guidance counselor, which he was also the soccer coach, he kind of steered me,
Mr. Hotchkiss.
Mr. Hotchkiss, steered me towards thinking about going to college and to go into the computer field, which at that time it was just about starting, and there was a lot of hopes that the field was going to get better and grow and so forth and so on, and that's pretty much what I did. I decided to follow that and go through college. Went to Farmingdale University. I started at and majoring in computer science. But during the same time, while my brother was away at in the service in Vietnam, they instituted a draft system with the lottery, and they would draw numbers, 365 days or whatever, and whatever your birthday fell on. In my case, was March 3rd and March 1st, because my legal birthday is on paper is March 3rd, and I was using March 1st for a lot of things. So when the lottery came, the numbers came up. And my March 1st date was, I think, in the hundreds, and they were calling people up for March 1st, whether you were in college or not. It didn't matter at that time. So there was you had to show up for service. So I was served with reporting for the service, and when I saw that, I told them that I was still in college, and my number was wrong. My real birthday was March 3rd, which was in the 200 series. And based on that, they sent me back. Said, okay, you don't have to report yet. So I kind of, I guess, lucked out in that respect. Otherwise, I probably would have had to go into service myself. So from that, I continued on with my school. I finished Farmingdale. I graduated with an associate's degree in computer science. I had good grade. I made the dean's list. I was inducted in the Alpha Kappa society, whatever it's called. And I, upon graduation, within months, I got a job in the computer field as a computer operator at the Hempstead Bank in Hempstead. I was working nights, and I was pretty much doing, first of all, to get the job, I had to pay a fee. I had to pay the agency to get me the job then. But that was the way things were at the time.
Things are still like that.
Well, they still are, but I guess it was more, I guess, of a shock saying that you had to pay to get a job at that time. I thought. So, of course, during the same time, I've seen my wife, which was in school we had met Annette, and we married in '73, and from there had three wonderful girls, Nicole, Angela, and Madalena, which I'm very proud of. They have gone their way, married, and two of them with grandchildren, and But the job in the field has been good. I had no regrets. Definitely a good move. I have to give credit to my
Soccer coach.
the soccer coach, Mr. Achkas, and also my wife, which supported me to do the same thing. So.
Disappointed. Come disappointed.
Okay, so we arrived on October 1st, 1963. One of my cousins, I guess my Aunt Mary's daughter, I believe Madeline, took me to get registered for school. I belonged in first grade, but I guess because I didn't speak English, they put me in kindergarten, and I started at Drexel Avenue School in Westbury in kindergarten. I remember one day my brother Nick coming to pick me up, and all the teachers were crying at the school and not knowing what was going on. And it turned out that was the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I have vague recollections of the 60s as I was young. I do know that I lived through the riots after Martin Luther King was assassinated. A lot of the things of the 60s that now I can go back and look at the History Channel or whatever to actually know what was going on, but I did live through that. We had, I guess, a sort of a typical immigrant life at that time. Our parents didn't understand the language, and so my brothers and I learned English pretty quickly. I remember learning to read and write and speak English pretty quickly. I know definitely I was fluent before first grade. And having to do a lot of things for our parents, take them shopping, going with them anywhere that they needed to speak English, and translating. So as a little kid, having to translate anything that anyone said to them, and they relied on us for that. It was a typical immigrant lifestyle. We wanted to keep as much of the old country, my parents did, but I know that I wanted to assimilate and not be different. I remember, I think it was Nick bringing mortadella or something like that in a sandwich for lunch and being teased by the kids. So I would tell Grandma, don't make mortadella sandwiches for me. Like I wanted peanut butter and jelly or ham or something, ham and cheese, something on American bread. I didn't want the Italian bread sliced or the little Italian loaves of bread because I didn't want the other kids to think I was different. I wanted to be an American. That was very important to me. I didn't want to stand out. I didn't like my name Frances. There were no other Franceses in school with me. I wanted to be Susie or Debbie. And those kind of things mattered to me, I guess, as a little kid. I was a very good straight A student. I was not really allowed to do much outside of school studying, so that's why my grades were so good. I did not work like my brothers did while they were in high school. I guess being the only girl, Grandpa, he didn't feel that I needed to work. So I had very good grades because that's all pretty much I did was go to school, study. I loved to read. I finished high school a year early. I doubled up on some of my subjects to graduate in 1975. I was in the top 20 of my class for graduation, and my parents never told me they were proud of me for my grades. It was just, I guess, something that they felt whether I wanted it, then I could achieve it. Most of my friends quit high school at 16 to go to work. And so I was very surprised at my graduation ceremony when my father remarked to another man who was there, who was an Italian man, who was there for his son, how he was proud of me that I had all good grades. And he said to that man, oh, my daughter is graduating with honors. And that was like the first time I ever heard my father say anything remotely sounding like he was proud of my school, my schoolwork. unfortunately, they did not think it was necessary for me to go to college, and I was not encouraged. So once I finished high school, I went to work. I had my first job in an insurance company, and I worked in the office. Being that my fiance was about to be 19, about to be drafted into the army, Italy at the time still had the draft. We decided to get married so that he could come here, because we had been writing to each other for 3 years. Yes, I know it sounds crazy, but we never saw each other after 1973. So we wrote for 3 years, and through letters, we decided to get married, and we set the wedding for June of 1976. So at that point, my parents and I prepared for the wedding, and we flew to Italy and had the wedding and a reception there. When we came back to the United States, being that I had applied and become a U.S. citizen, I was able to process papers for my husband to come here right away. So he was able to come over in August. We got married in June. He was able to come in August as a spouse. So he was a legal alien and able to come here and work and everything. And he had all resident alien rights. We lived with my parents in an apartment upstairs for, I think, 2 or 3 years. We had our first son, Pasquale, and Rocco were both born here while we lived in the house in Fifth Avenue. Then when Rocco was about a little less than a year old, we moved to a house that we bought in Carl Place, and we lived in Carl Place. We started to make plans to move back to Italy. Cheech, my husband, Frank, always wanted to move back, and we finally agreed. Pasquale was about 6 years old, so we wanted him to start school there, to start going to first grade in Italy, and not have language barrier, just like the opposite of what I did, coming here. So we wanted him to be able to start school in Italy. So in 1984, we had sold the house, packed everything up, and flew back to Durzano, and we lived for about a year with his parents, and then we prepared the house that I had grown up in, well, not grown up in, but the house that was my parents' house in Durzano. So we moved there to the house in San Rocco, and we lived there for 3 years until in 1988 we decided to come back. Interesting enough, when going back to Italy, I found myself again an immigrant. I now felt I was an American, and an American going back to live in Italy, and I had to learn Italian. I spoke dialect, just having been raised. I always kept my Italian dialect, but I needed to read and speak and write proper English. And we also decided to open a business, and I had to apply for a business license and pass a test. And when you apply for a business license there, you have to not only pass a test to get the license, but you have to speak to Chamber of Commerce. It's about 12 men interviewing me of why I wanted to open this business and explaining to them in proper Italian. So I kind of understood what my parents felt like coming here. I had an advantage of already knowing Italian and knowing the town and having relatives there, but it certainly felt like going back in time and experiencing life as an alien. So in 1988, we made the decision to move back to the United States. By that time, I had 3 sons, my youngest, Angelo, having been born in Italy in 1986. So he came here just a month before his 2nd birthday. We unfortunately did not have financial means to come back and buy a house right away. So we lived for about a year with my parents. 6 of us in 4 little rooms. It was a little tough, but we made it. My kids slept in the living room on a pull-out couch, Rocco and Pat, and it was fighting every night, getting them to go to sleep. Angelo slept in a crib in Grandma and Grandpa's room, and Uncle Cheech and I had the other bedroom. After about a year, we bought the house that we still currently live in on Hyacinth Street, and that was 1989. And so we moved to Hyacinth Street, and I was working, at that point I was working at Macy's in the Human Resource Department, and my husband Frank was working for a construction company. In March 11, 1991, he suffered a sudden fatal heart attack and passed away. That left me with barely 2 years of living in a house with a mortgage and 3 young sons to raise on my own. I continued to work at Macy's for a few more years. I was well liked, and I kept getting promotions so that I was able to support us. We did have some help with my parents. My father was very good to us. Whenever I needed something, he was always there for me, and definitely helped us out a lot. Helped us with babysitting so that I could work. Angelo was very young and was in pre-kindergarten, and he would stay with my father so that I could work full-time, and the other 2 boys would stay with them, with my dad, and then my mother also when she retired, and they would stay with them so that I could continue to work full-time. We lived pretty much simple life. We made it. We got through it. It was difficult not having father in the house. My sons went through some difficult times, but we managed, and I think the family life that we have and love of family, strong family around us, really mattered and kept us very centered, and was always a focal point of my life, that I had my brothers when I needed something were always there for me. My sisters-in-law, everyone really helped whenever they could, and greatly appreciated that. In 2009, I was blessed to become a grandmother to my granddaughter Emily, and she is now 6 years old, and that's my little family, my 3 sons and my granddaughter.
Io non stiamo a casa, ma io non penso a faticare, non sapevo niente, no, ma non te ne insegnato cose, che ne sapevo, non sapevo che cazzo di fatica di fare. E mi mettevo a tagliare, ci mettevo a tagliare tutti gli italiani, i figli faccio immagini, no? Poi mi mettevo a cose per cose, non faccio immagini, chiaro. Facevo tutto che fatica faccio immagini.
Aspetta, preciso traduce. Basically, she's saying once she came, within a couple of days, she had to go to work. Obviously, she wasn't a fan of being here. The fact everything was foreign to her, and from there, she went to the sweater factory, where they had basically did type of work that they did. They fixed sweaters, they cut strings hanging from sweaters, that kind of work, basically.
Però poi si faceva solo, venire parecchia gente con l'età, e dopo mi trovai a job in 2 o 3
Ma parlate inglese. Parlate inglese.
And, you know, I gotta talk English.
Yeah, you can speak English. Come on.
Ma la fatica, già dicendo troppo che di fatto che quando faticavo che mantenevo di più non faticavo, ma che facevo troppe cose, non era solo a faticare a gauss.
Come at 6 o'clock at the night, coming home, I gotta cook because everybody waiting hungry. And the Saturday I got off, work in the harvest, clean and go
shop in the hills, supermarket.
I go shop, I go to the wagon, I bring the food over here.
She used to go with the wagon, then I got the car, then I used to take it.
Actually, I think
my
it used to be called Bohack, I think, before. And
I
then
got a
it was called
tough
Hills,
life,
Hills
you know, I
first,
got a
yeah.
very tough life. And the Saturday I got off, I wash the clothes, I clean the house, I cook, sometimes I make bread or two, you know.
We know you did a lot of sacrifice. You and mother and dad did a lot of sacrifice to raise the family. We know that. We appreciate it.
Tough. Francis, she coming over here, she's a little girl, 6 years old. And Nikki, I bring her, and Christine, was here, Uncle Jimmy. Now you don't know Uncle Jimmy. Because
He
he's
passed away.
way back.
and my husband abroad. Because she's 6 years old, you know, I can't leave her alone. I gotta go work, I cry because, you know, I leave her alone. And he put in a bicycle, I bring her to my sister-in-law, Christine. And, you know, very tough life, man. You don't speak English or nothing, you know what I mean? It's a tough when you come in another place. You know, a little bit at the time. I worked 26 years in a dry cleaner, very hot. Sweat, everything. I can't wait to leave. When I left, I said, nobody gotta say goodbye to me because I want to leave. I'm not coming for this street anymore.
She really had it, huh?
Very tough because, you know, too hot. This team in the bottom and me, I work in the top over there. Very tough.
Well, it wasn't easy to adjust.
After then I retire, I'm home, take care of my husband. My husband is still work, you know. And after he's sick, but 3 years is sick, I forget about tough life. Because he coming from another country, you don't speak English.
How old are you?
In Italian or the English version?
Yeah, ma quando c'è?
Sono 90-25.
Quando devi dire? Ma quando devi dire?
89.
Ma prima che storia.
89, no.
Yeah.
Idiot.
It's a surprise you didn't say you're 90.
She's 88 years old.
She's not, she's 89.
89 years old, okay.
Idiot.
Just that
You
it
do
is.
the math. 1925.
I'm 65. I just turned 65. Next year I'm going to retire. 66. I worked for the U.S. Post Office for 32 years.
Wow, you're actually
Come on,
going to retire? Oh my God.
66. I'm going to retire.
Signed up for Social
1925.
Security.
How old are you? Tell them how old you are.
I'm 63, so I'm young.
You're the youngest one.